to another video. Today we are going to be checking out true creepy story animations. Before we get started, like the video and subscribe to the channel because we're almost at 10 million subscribers. Also, these animations are made by VuJae Animation, so please be sure to check him out as well too. Down right here, click, 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 and let's react. Warehouse, okay.
I'm a warehouse worker for a small business in my city.
Creepy warehouse.
I'd been in and out of jobs for a while, so this wasn't really a career or anything. I just did what I had to do every night, and that was it. Specifically, I had to unload pallets of shipments that came in and put everything in their designated places in the warehouse. Super simple job, and most of the time I just put in earbuds and listened to music while I did it. With the warehouse not being too big, very rarely would there be another person working overnight with me. That would only be on the holidays, but this night was just a regular night. I came in, counted the stock, then put my headphones in and started unloading the boxes from the shipments. I started at 10, and it was probably somewhere between 12 and 1 a.m. when a knock echoed through the building. I took my headphones out and listened, but didn't hear it anymore. The building was old and would creak and groan throughout the nights, especially when it was windy outside. But what I thought I heard was clearly someone knocking. I walked down to the back of the building and looked around, then went to the front. I didn't see anything inside, so I opened the front door and looked outside. The parking lot was empty, and the night was still and quiet. I shut and locked the door, then went back to work, thinking I must have just misheard it. Being more cautious though, I left my headphones out for a bit. 20-ish minutes went by before I heard something again.
Woof!
This wasn't a knock though, it was more of a single thump coming from the front.
Oh my gosh.
I hurried down the hallway and up to the front portion of the warehouse. Nothing was there. No signs of anything wrong or anyone at the door. I knew what I heard this time though, which is why I got kind of nervous.
What is it?
I stood in the middle of the room for a moment and just looked around silently, listening and looking for something, anything, to be the cause of these noises.
It's your mama!
Standing there, I got a bad gut feeling, just that something wasn't good about this. I walked up to the front door and leaned on it to look out at the parking lot again, but as I put my weight on the door, it swung open with ease. I stumbled forward, not expecting it. It was almost as if the door wasn't locked or even latched at all. Yet I had checked and locked it not even a half hour ago. I looked at the door, then saw the latch lying broken on the ground in front of me. My stomach tightened, and I felt my adrenaline suddenly spike. Not even a second later, I heard the faint sound of footsteps echoing from the dim hallway behind me. I quickly went out the door and into the parking lot,
Run!
Still in a dazed and unsure state. Once I was a good distance from the door, I turned around. Barely visible through the glass door, the shape of a figure walked up to the other side.
Yo.
They moved around for a moment, definitely looking at me. Then they walked away.
Oh my god, dude.
I called the cops as soon as I could and waited in the parking lot, but never saw any more movement in the building.
So scary.
When they arrived, they found that he'd left through the back door, and it seems like they couldn't figure out anything else to help solve the case.
Of course.
A few things showed up missing, but nothing substantial, and honestly, I think it was probably just from a wrong stock count. Regardless of if anything was stolen, to break the latch, He must have had some kind of tool or weapon, which only makes the whole thing more scary. They also moved the door back to look like it was closed, knowing it would keep me from figuring out what was going on. Maybe if I hadn't noticed the door was broken, I would have come face to face with whoever that man was, and I have no way of knowing how that would have turned out. Although unlikely, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was coming after me for some reason. So I've since left that job and moved on, hoping I don't run into him again.
Ooh, yo. Nah, that is just one whole creepy, scary, horror-y story. This is the reason why you just don't work at warehouses by yourself. Because when you're alone, you know, demons and spirits or ghosts or whatever you want to call it, they tend to actually latch onto you because you're alone. Does that make any sense? Kids out there watching right now, when you grow up, please don't get a job that you're working alone. Like, just get a job where you're like working with other people, you know, with other employees. You know what I'm talking about? Like, just work at McDonald's or Starbucks or like, you know, Krispy Kremes. Especially during the daytime, you know what I mean? Like, you'll never come across any ghosts or demons during the daytime. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm saying right now. I'm just ranting at this point. But like, more of the story, just don't work alone. Know what I'm talking about? Okay, on to the next.
My parents own a small shop in our town. It's nothing special, just selling regular groceries and food from local businesses. They'd been running it for over 20 years, and my dad took it very seriously, keeping the store open until 12 every night, and sometimes even staying later. When I turned 16, I started helping out a few hours a week, and when I turned 18, I started working full-time while doing online college courses. This night was my dad's day off, and my mom was having some health issues at the time, so it was just me closing the store. It usually stays not so busy for the last few hours of the night, and there was never too much to stock either.
Another person working
Around
alone.
9, almost no customers were coming in. I think only 1 or 2 people came in, so I grabbed a sandwich from the fridge and took a quick lunch break. Of course, right when I did, someone walked in. I made my way back to the front desk and put the sandwich aside, waiting for the customer to finish shopping first.
Bro, looks creepy.
I pulled my phone out, and after a couple minutes, I looked up to see how the customer was doing, but didn't see him. I scanned the room again and still didn't see him anywhere. Thinking they were maybe in some off angle I couldn't see, I waited a few more minutes, but they still never came into sight. I didn't even hear them either. Feeling off, I walked around the counter and started looking through the aisles, and it didn't take long to find them. In the second aisle, a man was crouched down at the end, staring at the floor and not moving or making a sound. "Sir?" The man immediately looked up at me, then stood up and continued to stare at me.
Get out of there right now, bro.
All I could focus on were his eyes. They were wide and full, kind of in an unsettling way. But after a couple seconds, he quickly walked away and out of the store, never having spoken a word. Once I saw him leave, my first reaction was to check where he was crouching to see if there was any reason to be there, but there wasn't. I mean, that whole time, he was just crouching in the aisle. It kind of freaked me out because of how odd it was.
He's stealing all your chocolate.
I went up to the front door and checked that he'd fully left the area. Obviously it was dark out, but I didn't see him anywhere. I then went back to the counter and stayed a little more alert.
He's still there.
3 hours passed, and not a single customer came in. It was now time to close up, and after so much time passing, I wasn't thinking about that man anymore. I was just ready to go home. I walked up to the front and locked up the door, then grabbed my bag and started walking toward the back door to leave, when an extremely loud bang screeched through the store. I stopped in place, knowing it had to come from somewhere in the back, and it was so loud that I had no idea what it could have been.
Your daddy!
Worried, I slowly walked to the corner and looked down the back hallway. At the far end, dust was scattering through the air as the metal back door was loosely open, and standing right in the hallway was that same man from earlier. He was staring at me with the same wide-open eyes. I didn't know what to say or do. It was like I was just frozen in that moment. Despite his clear determination to break in, he didn't look angry. He had no emotion at all.
He's a zombie, bro.
I took a few slow steps back, then ran for the front, leaving the store and running to the other side of the street, calling 911.
That's not gonna help.
I called my dad too, and he rushed over to make sure I was okay. The man at the store was gone when police got there, but he'd left behind a sledgehammer sitting on the pavement behind the store. At first sight, nothing looked to be missing or stolen, so his intentions are anyone's best guess. It's clear he was unstable though, which means he could have been planning anything. Thankfully for me, I didn't have to find out what that was.
You got lucky. Yo, your mom picked me up right now. Okay, another person working alone, but this time in a grocery store. Here's the thing, if I was the worker and that creepy old dude walked into my store like that, I would not be scared. There would be no fear. It would be straight fists. I'm knocking him out on some Conor McGregor type beat. But yeah, him calling the cops wasn't gonna solve anything. Let's be honest, like, cops don't do anything these days. You know what I mean? They either just like... Okay, on to the final animation. Okay, if you guys made it this far to the video, please watch the last animation. I'm telling you guys, it's gonna be very scary. I think so. Okay, so we have a playground
This incident happened during the summer of 2015, just after I turned 21.
Dude, that was
and
so long
today
ago.
it is still one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. To this day, I still get creeped out when I remember it. The day after it happened, I went back to the park and I took pictures of the whole journey in the daylight to send to a friend, so I'll include them here as proof as well. One of my favorite things to do that summer was drive around late at night. As soon as the sun had dipped beneath the sky, or as soon as I clocked out from my job, I'd be in my car and ready to explore the city that I grew up in. July 9th, 2015 was one of those nights. My city's Italian-American festival was being held that week, so after getting out of an evening summer class I was taking at the time, I headed downtown to see the festival for a bit, and I met some friends.
Nice.
I left the festival around 10 p.m., and since I was still wide awake, I decided to go hang out in this little park that was on the shore of a local lake and listen to some music for a while. When I got there, no one was around, and the combination of the warm night air, the quiet rippling of the water from a gentle breeze, and the distant sounds and lights of the nearby city limits lighting up the edge of the horizon made for a perfect night to be out there alone. I parked near the gated entrance to the old weathered playground I had known since childhood and perched myself on one of the swings, with my headphones in and playlist blaring.
It's a girl, but the guy's a
for about half an
commentator.
hour
I mean, the
before they showed
commentator is a
up.
guy.
A set of headlights turned into the parking lot and caught my attention. I watched as a little red Saturn parked on my passenger's side, right next to the gate that I had come in.
Red and blue.
This little lakeside park is a common night fishing spot, so at first I didn't think anything of another car showing up, and I brushed it off.
Nice.
But after a few minutes, something in my brain told me to be aware of my surroundings.
Exactly!
It was then that I realized for the last several minutes, the man and the woman who were the vehicle's occupants had been getting in and out of their car, talking in hushed whispers, and turning their stereo up and down as they did.
Emos.
At one point, they had opened their back passenger doors and were messing around in the back seat, like they were trying to unload something large.
Hey, yo.
They made a concentrated effort to keep themselves in the darkness, and when I realized all of this, the hair on the back of my neck started to stand up. My brain told me to turn off my music, but keep my headphones in, and keep swinging a little bit, so they would think I was still oblivious to what they were doing.
Okay.
When I did, I heard the girl say something that made my blood freeze.
What is
I
it?
think she's almost done on the swings. At that moment, I knew these people were up to something, and the realization that they had been watching me confirmed the warning bells going off in my head were not needless anxiety. I needed to get out of that park. In order to do so, I would have to walk through the gate and past them to get to my car.
Bro, just
My
jump the
mind was
fence,
screaming
boy.
at me not to go near them. Instead, I got off the swing and walked toward the back corner of the playground, where the majority of the large equipment was, and acted like I was texting someone. I hid myself from view while I tried to figure out what to do, and what I heard next made my heart drop into my stomach. A third person's voice joining their conversation. It was then that I realized that while I was busy keeping my eye on these weirdos, a second car had pulled into the parking lot, but the driver had never gotten out until now, when I was out of sight. It was an older-looking woman with a raspy voice, who sounded like she had been chain-smoking all of her life. And suddenly, the three of them started arguing in the darkness. I just knew I needed to get out of that park, but I didn't want to be seen. The part of the playground I was hiding in was situated up against a fence line that separated the playground and fishing area from the basketball courts and boat dock.
Bro, just jump in the ocean.
Aiding and concealing me in the darkness was a large maple tree, whose thickly leaved branches dipped halfway to the ground, and whose trunk, thankfully, was growing on my side of the fence. I decided I was going to climb the tree, high enough to where I could at the very least saddle the fence and hop over. I did this as quickly and quietly as possible, and as I realized I was actually doing it, I was hit with a powerful combination of nerves and adrenaline that almost caused me to lose my balance and fall. Luckily, I saddled the chain link fence, which started squeaking loudly and digging painfully into my thighs through my jeans. But I didn't care. In one sweep, I was up and over the fence, free at last. Afterwards, I decided that I was going to slink around in the dark to the other gated entrance to the park by the boat dock, and then sneak my way along the road back to the entrance where I was parked. Once I was there, I was going to make a dash for my driver's side door and get in as quickly as possible, lock the doors, and get the hell out of that park. My heart was still pounding as I walked along the wet grass. But now that I was where I was at, doubts started to pop into my mind. What if I was over-exaggerating, and what if I was blowing things out of proportion, like I have a tendency to do sometimes? What if they weren't doing anything wrong? As I got closer to the main entrance, I did my best to hide myself in the shadows from the orange glow of the streetlight that illuminated the road. Just at the entrance was a large bush with a porta potty on the other side, and I quickly ducked behind it until I could work up the nerve to run to my car.
Yes.
The people were still there, but now they were congregating in the parking lot, with the raspy voice lady less than 50 feet away from me, standing next to her car. Just as I was trying to figure out what to do next, I heard her say the one thing on top of everything else that I heard and experienced that night that completely took all the strength and bravery out of me. "Did you get rid of the body yet?" It was like someone punched me in the stomach with an iron fist of fear, and all the momentum I had built up just drained from my body instantly. I wasn't sure if this lady was messing with me, and even after she said it, I wasn't even sure that I actually heard what I thought I heard her say.
It's all your head!
Whatever was going on, I knew I needed to get out of there, and fast. I barely had time to think as this lady got into her car and started the engine, with the sight of her taillights in reverse, prompting me to quick and immediate action. As she started to back up and swing around to pull out the gate, I dashed across the street and up a random person's driveway, concealing myself in thick foliage as quickly as possible. I watched as both cars pulled out of the parking lot. The gold Nissan that raspy lady had been driving going right, while the red Saturn with the guy and the girl went left off into the night. As soon as I was sure both cars were out of sight, I ran full speed down the driveway and into my car, shaking so badly I could barely unlock the door. Once inside, I was relieved to find that they hadn't broken in and stolen anything, and I peeled out of the park, doing no less than 50 miles per hour on the main roads home.
Bro!
I had gotten to the park a little after 10 p.m., and it was now 11:45 p.m. I pulled into the driveway of my house with my car still running, and I spent at least 15 minutes on the phone with the police.
Imagine that
Crying
the
as
house.
the full realization of what had just happened hit me. The county sheriff department was sent out to search the park when I said the lady had mentioned dumping a body, but nothing was found. They called me back around 3 in the morning once they finished their investigation and had me answer a few more questions. I didn't sleep at all that night. Around 7 a.m., I called my mom as she was getting ready to go into work, telling her what happened.
Interesting.
Normally,
interesting.
my mother is quick to call me out and over-exaggerating things, and I called her partially to confirm that I was indeed overreacting to what had happened the night before. But after I was done telling my tale, she got really quiet on the other end of the phone before telling me not to ever go into that park at night again. I didn't go back there for months afterwards. To this
Your
day,
mom is the
I don't
killer.
know if anything ever came of my report, or if those people were ever caught for anything. At the time, there was a man who had disappeared from the next town over, and his story was all over the local news. A few weeks after he went missing, his body was found in a major national park, about 30 minutes from where this little park was.
Oh my god, it all makes sense now. So those 3 people at the park wasn't really coming for her. They were there to dump the body. The mom was the one that planned the whole thing, and she had like 3 accomplices that was assisting her. Nah, that story creeped me out. That's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, like the video, comment down below if you guys prefer Chucky or Jason. I don't know why I said that, but which one? Chucky or Jason? And lastly, subscribe to the channel because that will help the channel so much. Watch these videos right here. I'll see you guys next time. Actually, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace!